Let's take a look at the latest situation as far as coronavirus is concerned. You can see the total cases in India is well past 1 crore 14 lakh. Now, the daily rise in the number of cases is 24,492. That's a slight dip from yesterday. The big worry state, of course, remains the state of Maharashtra, 15,051 rise in daily cases. Now, I will get to what the health secretary has written to the Maharashtra government in just a bit. So Maharashtra is the big worry state. Let's look at the daily cases graph. Here you can see the graph, how it has begun to climb up from around mid of February. After coming down over the second half of the last year, it has started to climb up from mid of February well into March now. If you look at the tracker, you can see the new cases, how they've been rising over the past 4 weeks. 4 weeks ago, the rise in daily cases was about 9,121. Now it's 24,492. Active cases also 4 weeks ago, they were going down 2,765. Now the active cases are up 4,170. Now let's look at this, bring up this graphic for you. The Prime Minister is going to meet all the chief ministers tomorrow. Because of the concern in the central government over the rising number of cases, the cases are now rising in 19 big states. So that's the big worry over here, which the center will focus on, the Prime Minister will focus on when he speaks to chief ministers via in a virtual medium tomorrow. You can see today cases are rising in 19 states and falling in just 3 states. And what was the situation 1 month ago? The cases were rising only in 4 states and they were declining in 15 states. This data, of course, based on the 7-day moving average. Now let's look at what Rajesh Bhushan, the health secretary, the union health secretary, has written to the chief secretary of Maharashtra. Let's bring up that letter for you. This is the letter that Rajesh Bhushan here has written to the chief secretary. He has detailed on what the central team has found. The central team that went to Maharashtra to assess the situation has found there. Let's take you through what are some of their findings. This is what Rajesh Bhushan has attached in his letter to the Chief Secretary. Report of the central team deployed to Maharashtra for review of COVID-19. Now let's take you through what they have found actually over here. If you scroll up in the testing section, this is a very important thing that they have said here. In all the districts visited by the central team, the test positivity rate was high, ranging from 5.1% in Mumbai to 30% in Aurangabad. And what does that mean? They say that this implies that there are many cases that are not being tested and there is high transmission in the community. That's what the central team has found. Let's look at some more points here, what the central team has found. They are saying that the absence of rigorous tracing, testing and containment is leading to sustained community transmission. This is what the central team that was sent to Maharashtra has found. And let's look at one final point in the conclusion, what they say in the conclusion. Look at this. They say that Maharashtra is in the beginning of a second wave of COVID-19 pandemic and there is very limited active effort to track, test and isolate cases and quarantine contacts. So that's the big worry. Maharashtra remains the big worry. This is what the Rajesh Bhushan has written to the Chief Secretary, detailing the findings of the central team that visited Maharashtra. Let's in fact, now I showed you that that graphic in the beginning, which showed about 19 big states where the cases are rising. You know, one of those big states is the state of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, the cases are rising. The daily rise in cases about 836, active cases up 279. Now, Tamil Nadu Chief Secretary has taken stock and the authorities are set to crack down on the violators, those people who violate the SOPs. They will be acted against. That's what the Maharashtra government is now saying. Let's go across to Sam Daniel for more on this. Sam, what are the measures that the state government is taking to arrest the spike in cases?
Well, Rohit, to begin with, authorities ought to ensure that people comply with COVID norms, particularly wearing of masks and ensuring social distancing at all places, and all those who violate these SOPs would now be fined, which would be minimum of 200 rupees under the Health Act. Secondly, the authorities ought to give permission for election rallies and meetings on condition that they would ensure wearing of masks, because in many of these massive poll meetings, there are visuals showing people do not wear masks. There is hardly any social distancing, and there is worry that this could lead to an exponential rise of numbers across Tamil Nadu. Thirdly, authorities also ought to ensure that the hand sanitizers and disinfectants are kept in places in all these public areas, including private offices, restaurants, stations, malls, and industries. And lastly, people also have been advised to ensure these two. And authorities say they have to ensure that those who are on home isolation or on home quarantine too would have to be monitored the way they were monitored earlier, 1 year ago. And whenever a person is found to be positive, they have to expedite the process of contact tracing, isolation, and then treatment to make sure this would be checked. At the moment, in the last 2 weeks, there's been a near doubling of numbers from, say, 462 2 weeks ago to 836 yesterday. And now there is worry with more election meetings in the run-up to the 2nd April elections. This could actually increase. And authorities say, although things are under control, they cannot be seen to be complacent, and it's important both the government and at the public level this is fought together to check this rise.
All right, Sam Daniel, we leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us with those details.